Good afternoon, everybody. Won't take up too much of your time. I would just like to talk very quickly about a new document that we have produced that we would like to roll out to the advisors. In particular, it's to ensure our GDPR compliance and at the same time take advantage of moving away from the express consent document, which has been with us for a little while and is a little bit outdated. So without further ado, I've attached this particular document to the email, but what I'm going to do is just share that with you on this screen now. Here we go. And right, perfect. So simply put, Pete and I have done lots of research into GDPR and the obligations that we now have. Very clearly, and very basically, customer now has certain rights, and one of the key rights, one of the main aims of GDPR is to give the customer the right to be informed. And the right to be informed starts really at the beginning of the sales process, where we let them know that we have a privacy policy, and this document certainly takes out the most important parts of that privacy policy and will save our brokers from having to actively go through that lengthy document, which will follow on later on. Now, I see this getting used in many different ways, but I'm hoping that people will see it as some sort of a prompt that puts us in a really good light at the beginning of the sales process. So it's called Getting Started, which I think is leaps ahead of express consent, which I never really thought was an endearing name. Starts with what we do for you, and again, I see a broker very much explaining this is what I'm going to do for you, plus much more. Simply brings in protection right at the beginning of the sales process, which I think is really nice. Has nothing to do with GDPR, but it provides this document with a balance that works with our holistic advice as well as compliance. Getting to know you puts the customer on the GDPR trail because we're going to start taking your information. So getting to know you, in order to recommend the best mortgage protection products, we need to understand your personal circumstances, and we'll do this by asking you some questions. So naturally, that means that we're going to take some information from you. The great news is everything we discuss is strictly confidential. And there's a few lines there about confidential, but I see the broker using his or her own language in order to do that. Now, what do we do with that information? Well, quite simply, we may share it, but it will be typically limited to a mortgage lender or an insurance company if indeed we use an insurance company. The data is held secure, and whilst there is more information about how we keep our data secure, and we can talk about encrypting laptops if we feel that it's relevant, all we really need to say is that it's kept in accordance with the latest legislation and that it's all backed up and it's kept within the EEA. We don't have to say that, it's there on the document. Protecting your identity. The purpose of this statement, whilst we have dressed it to look as though we are protecting or could be protecting the customer from mortgage fraud, really is to say that at some point we may use a credit reference agency. And this stops or will hopefully help us, should a client question why we did that in the future. Your personal information rights, which is something that I mentioned earlier on, really important. And I don't see us having to go through each of the person's individual rights within an interview. In fact, that would be, I think, inappropriate and overkill. However, if the person would like to find out what they are, then quite simply they'll be able to request a copy of our privacy policy, which is going to follow through later on, or go online, financeplanning.co.uk/your privacy. For those that don't know, rights include the right to be forgotten, the right to access, right to consent, right to withdraw consent. Look, it just empowers the person, and of course the right to subject access. And all of this is kept on the privacy policy. The last section, and this is probably, well, this is my favourite from a marketing perspective, keeping in touch. Your mortgage may have an initial period where the payments are less than the lender's standard variable rate. When this initial period ends, the lender is likely to increase your payments unless we find you another product. Really clearly setting out our stall that we will be the ones that find you another product at the end of that initial period. Obviously, we do not want this to happen. As such, you can take comfort in knowing that once the initial period is up, we will make sure that you are offered the best available alternative at that time. Also, after arranging your mortgage, we may make you aware of anything we feel you will have an interest in, which typically involves your home, your mortgage, or your personal finances. You can update your privacy settings at any time by unsubscribing to the emails or by visiting our website. Now, what we do here is we create an expectation from the customer's perspective that we will be contacting them. And that's a really strong element of one of the lawful bases in which we have chosen to process the customer's data. What we're not doing, as you will see, is asking for an opt-in consent, which would look like, please tick here so we can contact you in the future. And I'm hoping you'll agree that this approach is far more customer friendly and also sets out again our stall that this is a customer for life. We will ask the customer to sign the document, which is no different to what we did with express consent. The statement that they will be signing is to say, I understand how my personal information will be used by the finance planning group and have been given access to its privacy policy in order to understand and exercise my rights should I wish to do so. And that's all we're saying. If someone has got more questions, absolutely print them off a copy of the privacy policy, let them have it. Failing that, I see that just been signed and put on file in exactly the same way as express consent. If someone was to come back in the future and say, I didn't want you to contact me, well, I think that we could clearly demonstrate that we've explained this is how we, we explained that we would be contacting them. We have also shown them how they could exercise their rights to stop us from doing that. I hope this has made sense and that the document itself reads well. What Pete and I are really interested in is for you to have a look and let us know. There will be some technical areas within the document that we can't change, but certainly if you feel that there's anything grammar-wise or spelling that needs attention, I'd really love to hear those comments as quickly as possible. Thank you very much.